Hi, I'm Tom Allen. I'm Director of Commerce Applications at Lucidworks. I'm excited to talk to you today about what we've built for 5.2 in Predictive Merchandiser and its applications and landing pages. So let's look at a few landing pages here. They're going to be big and small. So I've got three cases. First one, I'm looking for some Halloween decorations. So I go to Google and I search for that. I'm going to find the fifth result here and I'm going to click on it. That's the target landing page for Halloween decorations. So you can see this has a lot of rich content, some subcategory listings, and not actually any products. Let's go to a second case. I'm a teacher looking for animal specimens for biology class. So let's look at this third result. So this goes to Carolina Biological. They specialize in supplying plants and animals for classroom instruction. You ever dissected a frog in high school? There's a good chance it came from Carolina Bio. So you can see that this landing page is much simpler. Let's look at a third one. I'm doing a search for TVs. So I'm going to click on that third result here, and that's going to take me to Costco's TV landing page. You can see that this has a mix of products and subcategories and some rich content. These are the types of places where shoppers enter your site and they see first. It's also where they browse to. But this is of vital importance because this is your first interaction with the customer. It's not the home page, it's not a product detail page, it's these landing pages. So let's break these down further in a bit. So first, let's look at a generic category landing page. So I browse to a category. Let's look at Lululemon's leggings page. So this is a pretty common landing page. It's got some rich content at the top and some products below. We can all agree that this is a landing page. So I think we can agree that we should tailor this experience for the user. And you can see that they've done that here. But what about if I further facet down, if I go to mid-rise or bike leggings, do we still want to capture that as an entry point? If someone Googles for cycling leggings, why show them a generic leggings landing page? Make it clear to them you know what they're looking for. Here's an example of a search I did last week. So I was looking for stainless steel medicine cabinets. This is a very specific type of product. What I wouldn't want in a search experience is seeing all medicine cabinets. I want to see the exact type of product I'm looking for. So this Home Depot link, when I click through it, it actually takes me to a medicine cabinets landing page, but you can see in the navigation here that they've pre-selected the stainless steel color family. So this is showing me exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to call this an intersectional category landing page. It's kind of two landing pages coming together. With longer tail SEO and segment targeting, pages need to be relevant. And conversion is actually better on landing pages versus product detail. I wrote a report last week that landing pages have a conversion rate twice that of product detail when it's a first page visit. And that's because they're not exactly sure which product they're looking for, but they know the type of product they're looking for. Let's take a look at a different case. What about a search result? This looks like a category landing page, but it's actually a search. I'm doing a search here for a category, men's Nike, and it's showing me landing page elements like this banner here. This is kind of a converging of search results and curated landing pages. Recently, I've been seeing more of these AdWord buys on Google for search results pages instead of landing pages. And that's because they're trying to capture more of those longer tail. And as merchandisers, you need to tailor that experience even when it's not a formal landing page. So what actually constitutes a landing page? In my view, it doesn't matter. In today's world, users enter your site on any type of page. But what is important is an ease of control of that experience, no matter how the customer got there. And one thing you have to be careful of is don't constrain your merchandisers with your architecture. When you make clear divisions in your software architecture, you're making it harder to build an experience for every entry point to the site. Don't make it too difficult to create landing pages. Don't try and distinguish this in your system architecture. So let's go back to those three landing pages. So we've got Target, Carolina Bio, and Costco. Let's narrow these down to regions of a page with product and search data. So in gray here, we have category spotlights. These are basically just facets, and they can be category, but they can be other ones. You can see in Costco, we have sizes of television or brands, but it's all kind of the same underlying mechanism here. They're rendered in different ways, but it's the same data in those regions. In pink, we've got product spotlight. These are very important to get right. These are the first products the user sees. If I'm coming to a landing page and I see products that I think have no relation to what I'm searching for, I'm going to abandon this search and go somewhere else. In light blue down here, we have browse results. This is very far down. In a lot of cases, this is all you can merchandise because this is actually being driven by search. And if you look at all these 3 pages, if that's the only part of the page you can merchandise, you're missing out on all of that screen real estate above. In teal here, we have suggestions. So this is like related searches, and this can be driven by your search engine like Fusion. So this should also be merchandisable. So even though these 3 pages look very different, they have the same common elements between them. And all of these are opportunities to merchandise. So why would you want to merchandise these landing pages? Let's look at 3 cases here. One is to have same defaults for regions, but allow adjustments. So let's say that you want to pre-fill product content into those carousels or featured products using AI, but you want to allow the merchandiser to craft rules for those products. And these won't always be reflected in your algorithms. So let's say the stock is low. You might want to bury that item. Let's say there's a social trend that you're noticing, but it hasn't yet been reflected in your data. You might want to boost it preemptively. And let's say that you have a top seller not in that top spot. It's maybe in the 3 spot. You might pin that just to make sure that users see that as the first product. And what you're doing here is reducing work with those same defaults, but still allowing the merchandiser to customize it. Another way you can do this is by genericizing pages, but allowing overrides. So you have common elements like category spotlight or color spotlight and the browse featured products. And you can reduce the setup work for your merchandiser by making this generic across many different categories. This way you can tackle more of those SEO cases. You can still allow the customization through rules, but you're making the template generic so you don't have to build landing pages repeatedly. The third case you can do is have common building blocks but unique pages. So in this case, you're making a menu of items for the merchandiser to grab from and put on pages. It might not make sense to have the same exact layout of landing pages for every use case. So let's say that your subcategories, if you have a subcategory spotlight, it might not make sense if you have limited or no subcategories for that page. Or let's say it's a new product line. You don't have top selling data because you don't have any sales data yet. It might make sense to remove these regions or put in different ones. So let's talk a little bit about architecture. So this is a very common headless architecture for an e-commerce website. You've got your web CMS driving most of the pages of those landing pages, and it'll have a template there, and the merchandiser is entering product IDs on that template. Then you've got the product search, which is Fusion, driving the search results page, and that's where the products are coming in. And then you've got your storefront handling all the other functions. But there's a gap here. The CMS is really built for content. It's rich content, not products. You have limited merchandising tools, and you could have out-of-date products. If you're relying on your merchandiser to copy and paste product IDs, there's no guarantee that that product ID is going to be accurate later on when it goes out of stock. So you have information siloed between the different parts of the page. And what you're really doing here is creating work for the merchandiser. So let's look at an alternative. Instead of being CMS driven, we be search driven. So Predictive Merchandiser fits here by defining templates and zones. We populate those zones with products and content. And in all of these, merchandisers can create their rules for boosting, burying, and pinning products. So you have an advantage over CMS here. The search is the most up-to-date on your products. And since that search index is up to date, you don't get discontinued products or out of stock products. It's automatically taken care of because the search engine just knows these things. You have a new color added, it's automatically showing. You don't have to go in and add that in your CMS. But let's say you don't want to have your search engine drive the entire site. What you can do is do a hybrid architecture. In this case, you still have that web CMS driving the page, but it handles the CMS content and then delegates portions of that page to Predictive Merchandiser. So here we have the Predictive Merchandiser template within the web CMS template handling the products. So you can still merchandise those parts of the page, but you're not trying to take over some of the rich content portions. So Predictive Merchandiser fits this need by having a new element of templates and zones. So what you can do is develop those display views once. You put that framework in place to be self-sufficient. So the developers set up the display views to render this data into a view on the page, and then it's kind of up to the merchandiser to decide when to use that. You're empowering the merchandisers on any page, not just search results, but all of those landing pages. And maybe you might just say, you know, every page is a landing page and I'm going to merchandise everything. You don't need help from developers to get a new landing page launched, and you don't have to merchandise in systems that aren't built for products. You also have a unified search response. So this is kind of the core of how you can build that front-end solution once and not involve those developers again. You're going to return multiple search results in one response to whatever front end is rendering. And that way you can have different orders of spotlights. You can have the search results up front if you want and put the other stuff down below. And you can also merchandise everything. So each one of those regions on the page, you can boost, bury, pin, and block. So you can set the products you want to see where you want to see them. So let's dive in a little bit to this interface. So landing pages are controlled in Predictive Merchandiser through these templates. So a template is really just a collection of zones. So here we have just a name and a precedence level, so you can have different if-then-else logic for triggering your templates. And then you define the zones. So here I have a category spotlight, a color spotlight, and my main results. And you can share these across different templates and you know, reuse all of your components. Then what you want to do is build your triggers. So you build a trigger around different types of searches or browses. And let's say you want to trigger based off of a category. You would just create a new trigger and then set your filter queries down below so you can know exactly when this is triggering. And you can make this exact if you only want this to be on the men's page, or you can have it inexact where if they do men's and then select a different facet, you'll still trigger the same template. And then you can also set these up for different search terms. So you can have the same template handle search results based on terms and also browse. So you have that convergence of landing pages and the search result pages. And all of this is controlled by the merchandiser. And these zones here, you can think of them as just different Fusion results pages. These are just search results formatted in different ways. And the idea is that the search developer goes and works with the merchandiser, predefines all of these different use cases for search, whether that be recommendations or spotlights or results or top selling products. All of these things can be defined in a generic way and then reused across different templates and different pages. And the key is that all of this is controlled by the merchandiser. We're taking some of that control away from the developers and allowing the merchandisers to define the experience. During all of this, you get all of the other predictive merchandiser features. So we've got the in-context rule management. I alluded to this several times in the presentation, but we've got boost, bury, pin, and block. So if you can boost products, push it up in the rankings, you can bury it, push it down. Pinning is where you actually define the exact location. So if you want that in the 3 spot of the search results, you can do that. Block is if you want it completely gone from your search results. You've also got the analytics insights dashboards, so you can see how the generally the searches are going on your e-commerce website. You can see, searches over time, conversions over time, and see those charts. You can also see this product by product. So if you want to see how these products are performing, you can do that directly in the merchandiser interface. And all of this is built to be merchandiser friendly. So we don't want to build a search developer admin interface. This is built for merchandisers. It's made to be simple and intuitive. You also get insights into the AI suggestions. So one of the key points of Fusion is all of that AI that you have to drive everything. So you can get those head-tail rewrites where you're fixing some of those poor performing queries and broadening the results. And you can have automatic misspelling detection, automatic phrase detection, and automatic synonym generation. And on top of just approving and reviewing these things, you can add your own. So if you know that this misspelling happens, you can go ahead and put that in. All of these are in Predictive Merchandiser and are available today with 5.2. All right, thank you for attending today's session and enjoy the rest of your day.